Antonio Brown, Boomin University.
There's so much positivity on my timeline, like on my Twitter timeline and on my Instagram timeline. So many people are so content with the Cowboys' performance, and there are things I liked, don't get it twisted. There are things that I think they did really well. There were things that I think were a little BS, and there were things that just made me want to bang my head against the freaking wall. So before we get to the content, just a reminder, in about a couple of days, I'm going to be announcing a winner to a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X. All you have to do to enter, subscribe, and turn on our notifications on this channel. Let me get all that out of the way. Break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Just a quick disclaimer. I really can't show much of the actual game footage here because, well, the NFL has some copyright rules. So instead, I'm going to be showing a mixture of Tom Brady highlights, Chris Godwin highlights, and some Dallas Cowboys highlights and training camp footage. But of course, I will show one particular play that just really disappoints me and really frustrates me. I think we all know what play I'm talking about. But let's build up to that, shall we? Because there were some things that I really liked, and there were some things that drove me absolutely crazy. The first is, if you drafted Ezekiel Elliott with your first pick in your fantasy football draft, which happens to be my brother, and I was watching the game with my brother tonight, you must be extremely frustrated to see Tony Pollard is technically the running back number 1 in Dallas currently. I mean, bear in mind, Ezekiel Elliott only had 4 carries in the first half, and when you look at teams like the Baltimore Ravens that are currently so desperate for a running back that they signed Le'Veon Bell, Devontae Freeman, and most recently Latavius Murray, you just can't help but wonder what the Baltimore Ravens would do for a running back like Ezekiel Elliott, and I'm sure he'd get a hell of a lot more than 4 carries in the first half. And this has nothing to do with Zeke himself. Zeke came into camp in remarkable shape, but this is a man that is literally getting paid $90 million throughout the lifetime of his contract, and on top of that, if you think about it, he's literally the second highest paid running back in the NFL, tied with Alvin Kamara and just behind Christian McCaffrey, yet he only carried the ball 4 times in the first half of the game. Now, you might be wondering why that is, and if you are a Dallas Cowboy fan, it's really not that hard to figure this out. During the earlier parts of Dak and Zeke's career together, they were absolutely feasting off of a power running scheme built around Ezekiel Elliott and the Dallas Cowboys' remarkable offensive line. And yeah, Zach Martin didn't play tonight, so that did actually limit Ezekiel Elliott's abilities a little bit. On top of that, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and what most NFL defenses do, is they opt to stack the box against the Dallas Cowboys and make Dak Prescott be the one that has to beat them, as opposed to Ezekiel Elliott, which is a little bit more difficult to stop if you don't stack the box. So when you combine those two forces together, an all-pro offensive lineman is out, and you're going up against the likes of Jason Pierre-Paul, Ndamukong Suh, and Vita Vea, before you even talk about the linebackers like Levante David, Devin White, and Shaq Barrett, which I understand Shaq Barrett's more of a pass rushing specialist, so mainly Levante David and Devin White. Well, it's going to be very difficult for Ezekiel Elliott to get anything going for himself, especially if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are keying in on him. So with that, I actually understand why Ezekiel Elliott was so underutilized tonight, and finished the game with 11 carries and 33 yards for a 3-yard per carry average. But this also goes back to why I really don't like Mike McCarthy as a head coach. I mean, he's a head coach that typically excels at the basics, but when it comes to actually having a chess match against an opposing head coach, more likely than not, he typically loses. I mean, literally anyone that was watching the game could understand that this is what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were trying to do, and Mike McCarthy was literally putting them in the position that they wanted to be in. Now, I'm going to give the Cowboys some props because their play calling was pretty cool to begin the game, and I really felt Kellen Moore's presence in some of these play calls. I mean, a tight end screen, a fullback dive that features Ezekiel Elliott as the fullback, a fake reverse that features Tony Pollard faking the handoff to Amari Cooper. I loved all of that. I wish I saw a little bit more of it, but so far, at least it seems like like the Cowboys are getting a little bit more versatile, although I do believe they were a little over-dependent on the wide receiver screen. Play calling seemed to be very good at the beginning of the game. They did whatever it took to make Dak Prescott comfortable, considering the fact that they weren't getting Ezekiel Elliott involved very much. And I really hope that this isn't something that we could come to expect from the Cowboys consistently, and they'll find a way to, for lack of a better term, feed Zeke. Now, onto the Dallas Cowboys defense, which I've been telling people, and a lot of people have been laughing at me, that I think that this is going to be one of the most underrated defenses in the NFL, potentially a dark horse to be a top 10 defense in the NFL if Dan Quinn really could get to this team. And considering how Mike Evans was practically shut down by Trevon Diggs, and the Dallas Cowboys were able to successfully force 4 turnovers, that is extremely promising for any defense. But the thing is, whenever you have turnovers, you'd hope, at least in my opinion, that your team could capitalize upon those turnovers, especially when the Dallas Cowboys didn't turn the ball over that much tonight. Throughout the entire night, they only had 1 interception. And honestly, I really think that was just Dak being overly aggressive and CeeDee Lamb just missed the catch. But when a team gets 4 turnovers off of another team, then you'd expect that that team could at least close the game and win. But in this instance, the Cowboys forced 4 turnovers, yet left a whole touchdown on the board because of their kicker missing 2 field goals and an extra point, which is really frustrating because it's also kind of depressing. You're going up against the defending Super Bowl champion. You're going up against the greatest quarterback of all time. You're going up against one of the scariest wide receiver cores, and honestly, like a team that I couldn't even build in Madden Ultimate Team if I wanted to. A win here would have been absolutely huge, and if they were able to convert, and if they were a little bit more on point tonight, then they possibly could have came down with a W. But I'll tell you what is a W. The Dallas Cowboys wide receiver core is as good as advertised. Amari Cooper had 13 receptions for 139 yards and 2 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb had 7 receptions for 104 yards and 1 touchdown. They each combined for 31 targets, with Amari Cooper taking 16 and CeeDee Lamb taking 15. So these Dallas Cowboys wide receivers are absolutely insane and very fun to watch. The offense is very fun to watch, but I don't think this offense could complement a really strong defense if you're having Dak Prescott throw the football 58 times a game. Now, whatever I think about the Dallas Cowboys, I think about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers maybe 1,000 times over. This is one of the scariest teams I've ever seen. They literally feature Antonio Brown as their wide receiver number 3. And if you look at the statistics tonight, Antonio Brown had 5 receptions for 121 yards and a touchdown. Chris Godwin had 9 receptions for 105 yards and a touchdown. Leonard Fournette looked like a PPR god, so congratulations to you if you happen to draft him. And of course, we can now get to the part that I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys want me to talk about, which is the way the game ended, the offensive pass interference. Honestly, I don't mean to throw a pity party for myself as a Dallas Cowboys fan. I am extremely used to this. After all, Dez caught it, and then a couple years later, they admit that Dez caught it, and then as a reward, we got the Green Bay Packers lame duck head coach to compensate us for it. Yay! There's not much I could say about it. It's really unfortunate. I really hate when games end due to this type of stuff, and I have a feeling that the NFL is going to come out at some point this week and say that was an offensive pass interference. But to be honest, I really don't think it really makes that much of a difference. I knew the moment Greg Zuerlein hit that field goal to put the Dallas Cowboys up by a point at the end of the 4th, well, with a minute and a half left in the 4th, that it really didn't matter if he missed that kick or made that kick, because Tom Brady was going to march down the field and easily put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers into a situation to win the game with a field goal. And as a matter of fact, if the Cowboys scored a touchdown at that point, I feel like Tom Brady would have been able to easily march down the field and score a touchdown on the Cowboys. It's just the only way the Cowboys could have won in that situation is if they somehow, some way scored with like maybe 10 seconds left on the clock. And that's the only time I would feel confident and comfortable in a potential win over a Tom Brady-led super team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So at the end of the day, I'm not that optimistic. I do love our team, but it's the same old stuff that we've always been seeing from the Dallas Cowboys. A tremendously talented roster with just very poor quality coaching. And honestly, it's been like this since the Jason Garrett era, and it seems to be more of this during the Mike McCarthy era. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think think about all this. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.